and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Daily Triple, your no shit gaming news video. That's 3 news stories in one video with zero faff.
Who doesn't love Indiana Jones? It's the quintessential action-adventure film series that still holds up 40 whole years later. There have been plenty of Indiana Jones games over the years, but few really stand out or are that memorable, which is what allowed Tomb Raider and later Uncharted to fill that void. After an official announcement yesterday, one of the most beloved and bulletproof IPs of all time is getting another video game adaptation. The small teaser trailer shows off a desk with a few books titled things like Ancient Circle by Todd Howard, more on that in a bit, The Myths That Made Us, and Forbidden Stones, as well as a leather journal, some maps and diagrams, and a compass. Finally, we see Indy's iconic Stetson hat and whip before a cut to black. That sounds like absolutely fantastic news, right? Which developer and publisher is behind this exciting project? Well, the trailer reveals a passport stamped with Bethesda. But before we get too angry about Bethesda for its many past failures, let's just have a look at the specific developer handling this game. The game is being developed by Machine Games, as highlighted by a typewriter in the teaser, which is the studio behind the recent run of Wolfenstein games which have seen mixed success. Their first Wolfenstein game in the reboot series, 2014's Wolfenstein The New Order, averaged between 79 and 81 on Metacritic, which is pretty solid. The game saw a prequel spin-off the following year with The Old Blood, which was slightly less positively received, achieving 75 to 76 on Metacritic. The studio's biggest hit came in 2017 with Wolfenstein 2 The New Colossus, which scored in the mid to high 80s on all platforms, but a little lower at 79 on the Switch in 2018. Clearly, the studio knows how to do first-person shooters to a pretty decent standard, but the black spot in their repertoire is Wolfenstein Youngblood, which landed in the 60s across all platforms. This version was a co-op shooter starring the daughters of the series protagonists in a game that critics said was far weaker than its predecessors in terms of story, characters, gameplay, and monetization. But the blame for Youngblood is shared with Arcane Studios, best known for the Dishonored series, as the game was co-developed between both studios. However, with more hits than misses, Machine Games does appear to have a pretty firm grasp on the fundamentals of first-person shooter combat, which suggests that this Indiana Jones game may well take that perspective. According to the Twitter announcement made by Bethesda, the game is a new and original story in the Indiana Jones universe. A new Indiana Jones game with an original story is in development from our studio, Machine Games, and will be executive produced by Todd Howard in collaboration with Lucasfilm Games. It'll be some time before we have more to reveal, but we're very excited to share today's news. Todd Howard being personally involved as executive producer raises a few more question marks above the game, since the last game he produced was Fallout 76, and I think that one speaks for itself, don't you? Despite that, he has done some great games in the past, like the Elder Scrolls series and Fallout 3, so he definitely has talent in him. It's just a question of how much corporate interfering and additional monetization he'll shove down the throat of this one. But as the tweet says, don't expect to hear anything for a long time, though this will still probably come out before the Elder Scrolls 6 ever does. The biggest question mark at the moment over the whole project is whether it will be exclusive to Microsoft platforms, since the company acquired Bethesda's parent company ZeniMax last year for $7.5 billion. The newly established Lucasfilm Games is also directly involved with the game's production, so this may finally be signaling the long-awaited return of LucasArts. In related news, the official Star Wars social channel shared a new sizzle reel of several recent Star Wars projects and the upcoming LEGO Star Wars Skywalker Saga as part of Lucasfilm Games. Bethesda's reputation has been dragged through the mud over the past few years, and I certainly don't expect an Indiana Jones game to fix all of that, but just knowing a new original indie story is coming out is enough to put at least a little smile on my face. I mean, it can't really be worse than Crystal Skull, can it? And next up, much like Indiana Jones, everybody loves Batman. With the Arkham series, we got 4 great Batman games, but now it's time for him to step aside and give the kids some of the limelight in Gotham Knights, a co-op action RPG brawler based around the Bat family, Robin, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Batgirl. Batman has always at least been partially defined by his allies, most commonly Robin, and Gotham Knights is very much about creating that feeling of being a dynamic duo with another real player. Warner Bros. Montreal executive producer Fleur Marty spoke with Games Radar and said, "We have entirely redesigned the combat system in order for it to work well in co-op. Of course, we're still a brawler, and some of the mechanics won't feel totally alien for people who played and enjoyed the Arkham series, but it is in many ways ways very different. Since Batman is out of the picture, the Bat family is front and center, and you'll be able to switch between them more or less whenever you want. The game allows you to switch to a different character pretty much anytime you want, as long as you go back to the Belfry to do so. The Belfry is your new base of operations since the Batcave was destroyed in Batman's apparent demise. It's here where you'll pick missions, equip and modify suits, gear and weapons during the day before fighting crime during the night. The good news is that despite having multiple characters with unique gear and character progression, progress will accumulate even when not playing as certain characters. Since the story progression is shared between all characters, it makes sense that you don't have to level them up from scratch every time you switch. It also stays very coherent in terms of our narrative. Since the other members of the Batman family are always present in some way in the background, while you're out in the world fighting crime or unraveling the mystery, they don't stay inactive. So it makes sense that they're also progressing and getting stronger. You can play as one character throughout the whole game if you want to, so this sounds like a brilliant feature, as if you fancy just playing as some other character just once or twice, you can do so without feeling too level gated. Playing in co-op is clearly how the game is meant to be played, though it will be possible to play entirely solo. Batman's allies are iconic in their own right, but his villains are part of the reason the character has endured the test of time. Creative director Patrick Redding explained that the team had an embarrassment of riches when it came to the rogues gallery and wealth of stories to draw from. Even when we had the outline of our central mystery, we forced ourselves to focus on characterization first, and how that should shape not only the narrative and performances, but the action set of each of the four heroes. We took the overall tone of our Gotham City and used that to decide which supporting cast and villains we should build the game around. That became the foundation, it shaped the game systems, and then we built the game's story and found our cast of characters to work on top of that. That sounds like really good news to me. Building everything out from Gotham City itself and the core characters, and Gotham is basically a character in the Batman universe, which influences game systems and mechanics, then story, not the other way around. It's quite refreshing to see this level of dedication to making a co-op focused experience. Personally, I do always lean on single player experiences, but I like seeing the Warner Bros. Montreal are really doubling down on the kind of game they want to create and the experience they want to give players. That certainly doesn't mean the game will be any good, but I think it's a good thing that they're taking the co-op components seriously from the very start, rather than tacking it all on at the end. It's going to be similar to the Arkham games, but very much its own thing, and I applaud that. Let's just hope it fares a bit better than the Avengers did, huh? And finally, despite a relatively quiet start to the year, there are several major games coming out in 2021, at least for Sony. During a presentation at the CES convention, or Consumer Electronics Show, Sony seemingly revealed a bunch of release dates and windows for several of its games. The presentation was on the company as a whole, not just gaming, but these dates came from a single slide that acknowledged the games it had just shown off. Obviously, all of these are subject to change, especially considering that Foster's Fever is still very much alive and well. Ratchet & Clank in 2021, Horizon Forbidden West in 2021, Returnal 19th of March 2021, Pragmata 2023, Solar Ash, June 2021, Kena Bridge of Spirits, March 2021, Stray, October 2021, Ghostwire Tokyo, October 2021, Little Devil Inside, July 2021, Project Athea, I don't know how you say it, January 2022, and Hitman 3, January 2021. We knew some bits and pieces about these already, like Hitman coming later this month, but it certainly looks like a pretty damn stacked year for Sony in terms of exclusives and timed exclusives. Aside from the 2021 release dates, a notable one is Pragmata by Capcom, which was previously slated for 2022, but now looks to be coming in 2023, so I guess that one's been delayed. Square Enix's Project Athea, I don't know how you say it, is also an odd one out, as it's due in January 2022. Huge games like God of War were not featured in the presentation, and as such did not appear on that slide, though it is still expected in 2021, but personally I have a funny feeling that it's going to get delayed to next year. Sony hasn't made a big deal about any of this, so maybe it was all an accident? It seems like a pretty big ball to drop, but Sony hasn't acknowledged anything yet, and neither have any of the developers, so maybe this just slipped through the net. Kena Bridge of Spirits and Little Devil Inside are two of my most anticipated new IPs for Sony, and knowing they're coming just a couple of months apart is really exciting for me.
And that's your lot for today. If you enjoyed this no shit format, go ahead and give the video a like to give it a boost, hit subscribe and the bell if you want to stay up to date on all future installments. Toss a coin to your YouTuber over at patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. That's all for today. I've been Henry Cooper. Bye for now.